Hello. Welcome. We have ginger ale. We have reading goals. We're gonna have a good day. My name is Katie. Today we're talking about my 2022 reading goals. So let's get into it. My first reading goal is to read 50 books. I know this is not a lot for some of you out there, little voracious readers, but this is my first year after graduating from university. I read 19 books last year, not including books I read for school. So I am entering my reading for me journey. So I'm hoping to read 50 books. While I was in university, I probably read about a book a week for class. However, I am working full-time at a startup, and I do have a new puppy and a kitty cat that keep me very busy. So I'm thinking that a little over 4 books a month is probably going to be good for me. So my goal is to read 50 books this year. I will be tracking everything on StoryGraph, which is an app that I absolutely love. So I'll leave my username down below if you guys want to follow me on that and see what I'm reading. My second goal is to read more books over 500 pages. So my plan here is to read 1 book over 500 pages every month. Last year I didn't read any books over 500 pages, and frankly I don't think I read any in the past 4 years because I've been reading for university mostly. I haven't really read a lot just for me. And most of the books that we read in university, sometimes there is like one larger book that you'll read over the course of a semester, but most of the time it's smaller books or excerpts from books so that you can get through more material in a shorter period of time. So because of that, I've kind of developed this big book fear because I haven't read a lot of larger books in quite a long time. So my goal for this year is to read 1 book over 500 pages every month. I have tons of books on my TBR that are over 500 pages, and I have quite a few that are over 1,000 pages as well. So I'm really excited to read a bunch of these books that I've been really wanting to read. For January, I read A Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed that. For February, I'm reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I really do like that so far. I also have Don Quixote, The Count of Monte Cristo. Who else is on there? The Overstory, The Poppy War, A Little Life I really want to read. So I have tons of these books that are over 500 pages, so I've kind of been putting them off. So hopefully this will help me to read 1 of them a month. My third goal is to read more of the same authors. I tend to only read like 1 or 2 works from an author, and even if I've really loved them, I generally don't go and read their lesser known works. So I would really like to do that with some of my favorite authors. Shirley Jackson in particular, I loved The Haunting of Hill House. I loved We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I've loved a lot of her short stories, so I know I really like her writing style, and I think it would be really good for me to read some of her other works. I also want to read more of Matt Haig, Sally Rooney. I loved Normal People, and I haven't read her other 2 books, so I definitely want to read those this year. Oh, and then one that I actually have the book of here is Don DeLillo. I'm reading this right now. It's very interesting. Excuse me. I will read you this review. Though it's pitched at a level of absurdity slightly above that of real life, White Noise captures the quality of daily existence in media-saturated, hyper-capitalistic, postmodern America so precisely, you don't know whether to laugh or whimper. And that has been my experience. This book is very jarring and very beautifully written, so I am really enjoying this. I have a ton of his other books because my freshman year of university, I had a professor who gave us a list of books that he thought that we should read, and it's a great list. I have found some of my favorite books from that list and from that class. There's a lot of this author on the list. I kind of bring that list with me whenever I'm going to a secondhand bookshop, and I'll look for the books on the list. So I have picked up quite a few of Don DeLillo's books, and they're sitting on my bookshelf. They're ready to be read, so I think this is the year to do that. I have read one of his books before. I think it's called Point Omega. I'm not entirely sure, but I did really enjoy the book of his that I read. I read it for a different class. So yes, I am enjoying this. I'm gonna read this, and I want to read more of his stuff. So those are my authors that I'm gonna read more of in 2022. My fourth goal is to read at least one nonfiction book every month. I typically get those from my library in the form of audiobooks. I can go in and search on the app for all the nonfiction books that are on my TBR, and then the ones that are available to borrow, I'll borrow. The ones that aren't, I'll put on hold, and then I kind of just listen to them as I'm cooking, cleaning, taking the dog for walks, as they come in and they're available to borrow. So I don't think that goal is going to be very difficult. I just want to make sure that I'm being intentional about not only reading fiction, because I love all of the nonfiction that I read. Last year I read almost half and half nonfiction, fiction. I'm going to be reading a lot more fiction this year and a lot more books in general. So I think one nonfiction a month is about the same as I did last year. So I'd like to make sure that I'm sticking to that. So that is my nonfiction goal. My fifth goal is to read more genres. I've been reading a lot of classics and a lot of literary fiction because of my English degree. That was the majority of what my reading was for. I also read a lot of nonfiction entrepreneurship books for my management degree. So that's kind of all I've been reading. Well, it's not all I've been reading, but that's all I pretty much read in university. So now that I am graduated, I've been really wanting to reconnect with other genres. Don't get me wrong, I still love my classics, I still love my literary fiction. I think that's still going to make up a large portion of my reading. I do want to dip my toe back into fantasy. I did love fantasy books that I read growing up, and I love reading thrillers and horror, but I don't read a lot of it. But every thriller or horror that I read is usually one of my favorite books, so I definitely like to read more of that this year. The last genre I want to read more of is romance. I really struggle with this genre, but recently I've read a couple of romances that were fantastic, so I'm going to try to read more of them this year. My last goal is kind of a video goal as well as a reading goal. So one of my favorite papers that I wrote in university was comparing the film adaptation, the book, and the 2018 TV series on The Haunting of Hill House. And I wrote a paper that compared all of them in my hauntology class, which is the study of haunted things and hauntedness. As a concept, loved that class. It was one of my favorite classes I've ever taken. So I would really love to do more of that. I love seeing what things carry through from a book into movie or TV adaptations, what things are added, what things are taken away, and how the director adapts the source material to a different medium. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, let me know in the comments. I think the first book I'm going to do is Rebecca. There is a Hitchcock movie adaptation. There was a new one last year that was on Netflix with Lily James, and I've heard great things about the book. Taylor Swift has some songs that are inspired by Rebecca, I believe, as well. So there's lots of material there to look at. So that's probably going to be the first one that I do. I have ordered the book, so as long as everything goes well, it's a little bit more of an involved video, so that one probably won't be out for a couple of weeks. Okay, well, that concludes all of my 2022 reading goals. I would love to know what your reading goals are. So let me know down in the comments if you have any reading goals for 2022, or how you're trying to structure your reading, or if you're trying to have less structured reading. I would love to know either way. I have lots of really exciting stuff planned, so if you'd like to stick around, you know what to do. Otherwise, I will see you next time.